Jason here for Bottom Mod 101. And sorry the upload's late this week. I think it's the first time I've ever been late with an upload. Or I didn't do it on my day. Yesterday I had a tattoo to do. You can see it on my Facebook page, which is, I'll put a link down below. First time I've tattooed in about 3 years. I apprenticed a couple times, and I'm going to the Denver Body Art School, so I had a really long day, and I was somewhat stressed out because it's a little stressful if you haven't done tattooing for a while to jump back into it. But it turned out great, and the guy was really happy, and so that's my legitimate excuse for being late with my video this week. The school I'm going to is the setup and cleanup process, they make sure everything's sterile, and there's just it takes almost 2 hours, an hour just before and after a tattoo to set up, clean everything, sterilize everything, blah, 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 blah. And it took almost 4 hours. It was actually 4.5 hours, but there was a couple breaks. So, and afterwards I was beat, so I didn't have time. And in the morning I was a little just anxious, so I didn't do my upload. So it's Friday. This week's topic for the channel is drugs and modifying the mind. I could tell you guys a bunch of stories about my history, which I really don't want to do because I was an experimenter when I was younger. I've smoked a decent amount of weed in my life. I don't smoke it. Now once in a while I'll smoke a joint with my brother, I just don't smoke it as often as I used to because I had a problem with my throat a few years ago and my thyroid and had to have biopsies and all this crazy crap. So I just don't smoke as much. I can't say I don't miss it. I actually probably miss cigarettes too because when I smell them, there's that longing to smoke a cigarette, which definitely is a powerful drug. So I miss it in the morning when I'm drinking my coffee every once in a while. And like once or twice a year I'll have a cigarette just to remind me how freaking disgusting they are and such. But I don't pretty much do drugs. I don't do drugs anymore just because I'm 37. I don't have, I'm trying to take care of my body. Drugs are bad for your body. I don't care what people say. Even weed, people act like it's not bad for you, but whenever you inhale hot, toxic gases into your lungs, whenever you burn something and breathe it, it's not good for you. I guess it's a little safer to ingest it. I live in Colorado. Weed's legal here under state law. The feds still haven't quite put out any sort of comment on the states that are doing this, so it's still not legal federally. I have a lot of opinions on drugs. I honestly think there's better ways to expand your mind, and this is coming from somebody with experience. I've done hallucinogenics. I've experimented with mescaline, peyote, LSD. I sniffed heroin one time. It wasn't for me. I've done speed a couple times by accident, just because people told me that it was a drug that it wasn't. I'm not into stimulants. Coffee is about the only stimulant I'll do. I've been accused of being on speed multiple times in my life because I just have a fast-paced sort of energy about me, and I have problems with my nose, so people always think I'm like sniffing stuff. When I was younger, I was accused of being a tweaker quite often just because I have kind of like a high-energy sort of personality. I've mellowed out a little bit in the last few years, but I still just have that type of energy about me. I'm just full of energy. I guess that's why I gravitated more towards depressants instead of stimulants. I do drink. I'm not going to lie. I'm not an alcoholic. I drink maybe once or twice a month. I'm Irish, so when I drink hard. I don't do it as often just because I hate hangovers, and it's just hard for me to recover. It takes me 2 nights of sleep. Two nights of sleep. And when I was younger, I could drink all night and go to work the next day, but I can't do that anymore. My body is not as resilient as it used to be in my 20s and teens. I still love to drink, though, and I have to be careful with alcohol because it's in my blood. I would love to, if I could drink every day and not have any sort of physical repercussions from it, I probably would be an alcoholic. But the hangovers, like I said, are just, they're a little more devastating to me, and I have too much going on and too many goals that I'm trying to accomplish to have a hangover, but like maybe once a month. So I go out and drink, sometimes after I get tattooed for several hours just to bring me down a little bit. I think drugs are dangerous, to be honest with you. I've seen many of my friends lose their mind with drugs. I've watched people overdose on heroin and die in front of my face when I was younger and in my punk rock stage in my life. They're not as cool as you think when you've seen people like totally lose everything they own and everything they care about to crystal meth. Like drugs suck in that way. Like that's, they're not cool at all. And I know a lot of these people on this channel are young, so they haven't, I know they're experimenting still, but just be careful, is all I gotta say, because they can lead you places you didn't intend to, including modifying your mind in a way that you don't get back your original personality. I've known people that have done a lot of LSD, and they're not as smart. I mean, they honestly lose intelligence the more LSD you do, in my opinion. Yeah, you can say, the Doors, and yeah, LSD's been good for some things. I'm not going to deny that. If it wasn't for LSD, Jack Nicholson probably wouldn't be such a great actor. The Doors wouldn't have put out so many songs that were awesome. There's a lot of benefits to hallucinating, but there's alternatives to doing things that literally make your brain cells pop, because that's what's going on when you're hallucinating. Your brain cells are dying, and you're going through the early stage of death. So, that's what I think about powerful hallucinogenics. They're mini death trips, and I've had amazing experiences on LSD. I'm not going to sit here and recall you guys on all my trips that I've had and tell you about, cars turned into Roger Rabbit, and just, there's lots of strange things that happen when you're hallucinating, both in your mind and your spirit. I've actually had, I would say, some like mind reading situations go on where I could read what people were thinking. I mean, I've had some interesting things happen to me on LSD, but I don't really want to get into my history because I'm not trying to glorify them. If anything, I would go back and warn myself to be a little more careful with that stuff. And like I said, I've probably hallucinated less than 10 times total in my life. I've tried paper acid, which I'll never do again. I've done mushrooms. I've done just about everything you could do. I haven't done DMT. That was one drug I was interested in. I've never shot up heroin. I wouldn't stick any needles in my body except for tattoo and piercing needles. They're just something that, in my opinion, are dangerous, and people don't realize when they're young what they're doing to their body. And I know a lot of old hippies, and they're fried. And weed does take its toll. People don't think, they think it's a safe drug. Talk to some hippies that are in their 60s and 70s, and they have they're burnouts, a lot of them. I mean, they're like Cheech and Chong in the movies, but for reals. So, I don't know, be careful with weed too. It takes its toll on your lungs. It can give you lung cancer. I don't care what people say. Just look at the smoke that comes out of your body when you exhale marijuana smoke and compare it to cigarette smoke. It's denser, it's thicker, it's got carcinogenics in it too. Yeah, you take a marijuana plant and in its form, it's not whatever, but if you set fire to it and inhale that, it becomes a whole different chemical. It has, and then if you add paper to it and the glues they put on the rolling papers or whatever, I mean, unless you're using a vaporizer, but even that, I just, and I'm not totally against it. Every once in a while, I'm probably going to smoke a joint. It doesn't do for me what it used to do for me. I got to a point in my weed smoking career, you could say, where I felt more high when I wasn't high, if that makes any sense. Like, I woke up and I was smoking weed 3-4 times a day, and it just didn't do anything for me after a while. And I think I smoked weed when I was younger, more so for social reasons than actually getting high. Just because a lot of the people I was hanging out with were smoking weed. I lived up in a very prolific weed growing town here in Colorado where it was almost like currency up there. People use marijuana more like money than money. So, you could say I'm a hypocrite. You could say I vacillate on some of my opinions, which is true because I'm still trying to figure everything out, Some of the best highs I get nowadays are natural highs. Like when I work out, I love how I feel after I work out. I feel like Superman after a couple hours of lifting weights, which I just started doing again thanks to putting that video up a couple weeks ago on bodybuilding. I'm starting to work out again. I've been sore, but I enjoy it, and I forgot how much fun it is to lift weights. So I'll let you guys see the progress of my muscles as it goes on in time. The other thing that gets me high is doing tattoos. I know I haven't done that for a while either, but you get a little anxious before a tattoo, and then in it, when you're doing a tattoo, it feels great, and when you're done, you feel amazing. Especially like I did a tattoo yesterday, and the guy was super happy. He was very grateful, and I'm an apprentice, so I'm not charging much, and it's kind of cool to work on people that can't afford to get tattoos, because a lot of people can't afford to tattoo themselves. So this school I'm going to, I'm just doing it for tips right now, probably for the next 6 to 8 months. Just to get my portfolio a little thicker, and I'm grateful for every client I have because it's just a lot of fun to get back into it. Other than that, that's my upload for this week. Please leave your comments below. Please subscribe. Sorry my video is late. You know, I could go on for literally hours about drugs and tell you guys stories that you would not believe that are crazy. I've had, when I was younger, I had a lot of experiments with hallucinogenics and hung out with a lot of people that did drugs, and it's almost like a different person who I was back then, because I wasn't a heavy drug user, but I experimented with them, and I did see people, and I saw the long-term results of drugs, including hallucinogenics and crystal meth, and even marijuana. I mean, I know people that, you know, they claim it's not even a drug, like, but it is. Refined sugar is a drug, if you want to look at it that way. And one other quick story I want to talk about is legal drugs. Legal drugs are just as powerful and, if not more addictive than illegal drugs, and scarier. Like, I think a lot of the pharmaceutical companies that are making these mental drugs, that stuff hasn't been tested long term. I think a lot of it's mind control stuff, and it's scary. When I was younger, I was forced to be put on some of that medication, and I could tell you stories about that stuff you wouldn't believe either, but I'm not going to. I worked for a market research company in Seattle where I did research for Pfizer and Merck, and I would call up doctors and offer them $700, $800 to $1,000 for their unbiased opinion, where they'd come into our research facility and they'd talk about statin drugs, which are those drugs that were used for blood pressure in the heart. And it was about 10 years ago they found out some of them were killing people, and I think Merck settled, and so did Pfizer out of court. But there's some dark side to the pharmaceutical companies, and I really think that a lot of these drugs that people are taking aren't long-term tested. I don't take any pills unless I have a really bad headache. I'll take some ibuprofen or some Excedrin or something, but I just don't trust it. I don't trust pills with a bunch of Z's and Q's and Y's in them. I think that a lot of these drugs are used to numb people, and they're used to control people. They're used to make people more status quo. So that's how I feel about pharmaceutical drugs and just drugs in general. I think a lot of drugs lead to apathy and make people just, you know, if that's what you want out of life, then go for it. But hopefully you can find a dream that's bigger and better than just being, you know, because drugs make you they slow you, especially, you know, stimulants mess you up in one way and depressants mess you up in another. And I've seen in my personal life, I have family members that do, you know, smoke a lot of marijuana, and I've seen it just change their dreams. I've seen it destroy their dreams. I know you wouldn't believe, I mean, some people don't believe that marijuana can do that, but you smoke it long enough that your only dream is going to be another bowl. And I've seen people I've seen people spend whole days just trying to hook up sacks because they could not enjoy anything unless they were stoned, which to me is sad, and that's what I'm against with drugs. Like, if your whole day revolves around anything in that way where you can't do anything else but concentrate on that drug and think about how you're going to get your next hit, whether it's, you know, mescaline, THC, or crystal meth, then you're addicted and you're a druggie, and in my book you're a loser. I mean, that's just the way I look at it. Like, yeah, when I wake up, the first thing I want is a cup of coffee, so you could say the same thing about me. And I'm not saying there hasn't been times in my life where I have been that person, but I don't want to be that person again. So, you know, I've preached enough on this video, and hopefully you don't find me too hypocritical, because, like I said, every once in a while I'll smoke a joint, but I can live without it. I don't need it. I don't Jones for it when I don't have it. If I smell, sometimes I do, but other than that, that's my opinion. Hope you like it. Have a great day. I love you all. Bye.